Every year, the citizens of India discard more than half a ton of garbage, everything from used flowers and fruits to kitchen waste and rotten pizza slices worldwide. That's almost a billion tons of garbage that somehow needs to be disposed of or recycled. Now, the real question arises: what can be done about this waste?
As a resident staying in a building in a gated property, addressing the garbage is of a major concern nowadays. The max a resident staying in a building can contribute is to segregate the waste at the source. That is the maximum contribution one can give instead of the garbage being dumped at collection grounds. So the segregation starts at home. So what basically we do, or what we are requesting people to do, is segregate the garbage into three. One is the dry waste, wet waste, and the third could be e-waste or medical waste. In doing so, that could be a minimum contribution a person can do in saving this planet.
Now, what obstacles did you confront as a Secretary of Building 4 in putting the plan into action?
I would say yes and no. Not major obstacles or reservations came from the resident, only few concerns. As in building 4, we do not have a basement parking, so we had to set up our small mini compost plant right in front of one of the lobbies next to the pump house. So the main concern was from the floor below, like I would say from the floor 1 to floor 3, about the smell or a foul smell or little insects coming out from the compost site at the time of our initial stages of experiment. That was the main concern. Secondly, yes, there were few people, I will not say they were not ready, they wanted to understand the process in detail. So we had this door-to-door exercise, and as in when we explained to the people as to how the waste has to be segregated, how it will be collected, they were comfortable enough with it. And to make things easier, we also had formed a core committee who would be available at the compost site, or if any query came up, they used to visit them individually at the house and sort out the problem at that step. So not major objections or restrictions from the resident. We are into 4th year successfully doing it without outsourcing and inbuilt equipments at our company.
How did the idea of starting a small society plant make you feel at first?
Yeah, initially there were a lot of negative things as to how it would work out for such a big society. Would people agree to it? How are we going to do it? Because it was like only Jyoti had all the ideas and we didn't know. I mean, I didn't know head or tail about waste management and how. The only thing that I knew was that the way people throw their garbage, plastics here, there, bottles, so initially it started with that we are doing a little bit to improve this, the floods every time with all the plastics getting stuck. And when she explained to us how it could be done, we said, let's give it a try, no harm. And of course, the second thing was that even though it was a very, very small beginning, but we were doing our bit rather than thinking that the government has to do so and so, the municipality has to do. We said, here is one way where we ourselves can contribute a little bit to keeping the waste clean and to recycle the waste. That's how it started.
Do you believe this concept stimulated thought and in some way started the process of educating people about waste management?
Definitely, like stimulating thought, I would say, even among us. We didn't know anything, as I told you earlier, but this was a challenge to us, to start it, to see whether it worked. So we all used to read up a lot, find out how best we could improve our process. And we did have a lot of glitches initially when we started. So it was like how you start a project and something goes wrong or whatever. So there were a lot of hurdles initially till we standardized and all. But we didn't lose heart. We said we have to continue. Like sometimes there was this smell that came out, all the people would be upset about the smell. We ourselves, were a little wary about touching anything that was a little dirty or something. We would think that it is all dirt until we came to know that basically it's not dirt. It is something when it is transformed. It is something that you can touch, feel. It's just like the soil. So we got over that queasiness or whatever initially, and we can say that we are very proud of this. With the minimum amount of money, minimum amount of expenses, we are able to save and at the same time help getting this compost across.
So, how was the housekeeping staff trained about this project and how do they continue maintaining it?
Yeah, the housekeeping staff, initially Jyoti explained to them how it is to be done. She did the groundwork and how much has to be put and how the whole process takes place. And we were also there, the five or eight of us, the members. So for us also, along with them, it was a learning. So our housekeeping staff was also as enthusiastic about the whole thing as we were. So they it took at least about a year, I think, till everything really got streamlined. And as Jyoti said, we had one member who would take track of measuring how much is it, and how much you have to put in it to get the right consistency, no smell, what do we have to do. So it was trial and error. So they were all along with us all the time. So they also gave their inputs that, last time when we did this, we found that this was not there. So there were a lot of inputs that came from them. So there was a buy-in, So it was not like we were telling them do this and all. There was also a buy-in from them because they knew that even their inputs were important. So they've really been managing very well. Now we barely have to handhold them or do anything. They do it very well. And the success of this is because of our housekeeping staff also.
माझं नाव योगेश गुरव. मी इथे बिल्डिंगमध्ये 4 नंबरमध्ये काम करतो कंपोस्टसाठी मी वरून कचरा आणतो ओला सुका बाहेर जातो आपला वेस्टेज आणि ओला असेल तर सेग्रिगेशन तिथे करतो आपण कचरा मशीनमध्ये ग्राइंडिंग करतो तो प्लस प्लास्टिकमध्ये टाकून आपण सुकवतो 8 दिवस 8 दिवसानंतर त्याला परत आम्ही सुकवून चाळायला घेतो त्याचं कंपोस्टचं खत बनतं ते आपण झाडांसाठी बाहेर विकलं जातं.
The waste is collected and then put in a grinder for churning. Dry compost is added to the grinder before the churning to reduce the moisture. It is then dried for 8 days and further sealed to gain refinement for the manure. This is then used for planting trees and then further sold outside. Fresh trees and plants have now been grown. So, what was the inspiration behind this idea?
If you see, Mumbai sends about 7,000 metric tons of mixed waste to the landfill, and those time there used to be a newspaper. Many times it has come in the newspaper about what are the problems with landfill, and we were thinking that if we could minimize at least from our side the waste going to landfill, that was the one. But the main trigger was the mandate by municipal corporation to segregate waste. For bulk generators, they have given a mandate that we have to segregate the waste to dry and wet and process the wet waste at source. So it started with this particular mandate. We were also keen that whatever compost we set up, the facility needs to be close to the nature. So we have contacted Dr. Jayan Joshi from Thane. He knew he had some good cultures, and he gave us how to set up in a small basket, which was for the household, and then we started doing it at the basket at home, and then slowly and steadily we improved the capacity to 131 residents.
So, what's the importance of processing wet waste?
Importance in the sense there are two ways. One is if you process wet waste, you get always waste is a resource. So the time has come when you look at waste as a resource. And when you compost your wet waste, you get a good kind of fertilizer which can go back to the soil. Because when we take out crops, we take out the nutrients from the soil, and this is one of the way to give back the nutrients back to the soil. The other main advantage which comes as a part of it is, you get good quality waste which you can recycle. Okay, so you can recycle your plastic, you can recycle your paper, you can recycle many things which are in a better condition than you have this particular mixed waste. And also, as a part of when we started initiating the wet waste composting, we also segregated our dry waste, which is recyclable, and third component was the sanitary waste. So our people who are handling the waste were actually, were very happy because they don't have to take out the recyclable waste from the mixed waste which is also has the sanitary waste. So we were giving a good sanitary conditions to our housekeeping people.
Now, can people implement this process at an individual level?
Of course, yes. We all started at an individual level, and that is how we all came together. We have a small compost team as Triza, Neha, Shashwati, and every one of us contributed in terms of inspection, in terms of standardizing the process, in terms of getting new equipment to mix the waste, everything. So first we all started with a small basket, which is only can take the household waste, and then we scaled it up to this level of 131 grams.
Now, the last question. In one statement, what message do you have to the coming generation about waste management?
I think the most important thing is look at waste as a resource. Second thing, not really. So what we should do is, rather than saying that this could be done by the authorities or UNBs or government, we could say that what we can do, and I don't think it is very difficult. To start, we have to see small impacts which happen around us. But I have a message for the corporation or the governing body that since we are generating so much waste and the value chain is getting interrupted, because what happens is somebody has to take this waste at some cost, transport it to a location where these farms are located. So at least we should get some support. Government should come, the ULB should come forward and then have some system set up where waste could be, the compost could be taken to the area of application.